First off, the lunches were provided by Whitney Dameron, so if you see him around, please give him a thank you for it. We do appreciate him doing that. Last week, we heard State Fair and Department of Wildlife and Parks, and I'm thinking this week, let's just run through the rest of them, and then we'll just start making the recommendations and go down the line. So first one up, looks like we've got Department of Labor. Stephen, if you want to take it away, sir.
Sure. Good afternoon, committee. This will be on the yellow sheet. It's about I want to say maybe a little bit into a third of the way into the packet you have in front of you. Good to go? Great. All right, so for the Department of Labor, just as a quick recap for this committee, the agency has 3 offices within Topeka, 401 Southwest Topeka, 1309 Southwest Topeka, as well as the Eastman Building. Projects for the Department of Labor include regular maintenance as well as ongoing renovations. And in general, in terms of funding, capital projects are funded by a split, about 60% SGF and 40% from the Workman's Comp Fee Fund. Quick note on the capital improvements request for this agency. Many of these items are included in the 5-year capital improvement plan that was presented in front of the previous iteration of this committee back in, I think it was October of last year. There has been 1 revision made since then, but other projects and the budget requests are otherwise the same. So for fiscal year 25, the agency is requesting about $1.7 million in expenditures, including about $1 million from the state general fund. This is for about 200,000 of this is for general rehab and repair. About 210,000 of this is for replacing some entry doors at 2 of the offices at 401 and 1309 Southwest Topeka. About 250,000 is to reconfigure the first floor at 401 Southwest Topeka, specifically with the work comp division. And about $1 million of this is to replace AC units at 401 Southwest Topeka. So this last item, the $1 million to replace some air handlers and VAV units, this is an increase from the previous version of the 5-year capital improvements plan that was presented to this presented to this committee. Previously, the estimate was about $550,000. The agency has since determined that an additional pot of funding has needed because they had completed a systems requirement for it. So in terms of the recommendations for legislative bodies that have made recommendations to the capital budget, the Legislative Budget Committee did not recommend that enhanced funding. It was removed by a global motion to remove all enhancements. The House General Budget Committee heard this budget. They added it back in. That budget was reported to the House Appropriations, who concurred with that recommendation to add that item back in. So just for context for this committee. Fiscal year 26, the agency requests about $1.2 million. About $700,000 of this comes from the general fund. About $250,000 of this is for general rehab and repair. About $50,000 of this is for parking lot maintenance. And about $550,000 is for air handlers at 1309 Southwest Topeka. And lastly, about $310,000 of this is to expand the parking lot at the Eastman Building. For fiscal year 26, the Legislative Budget Committee, House Committee on General Government Budget, as well as the House Committee on Appropriations, all concurred with this request and didn't make any changes. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions, or I recognize that Secretary Schultz is with us in the audience and can field questions as well.
Committee, any questions on the Department of Labor or from the Secretary out here? Not seeing any, let's get on to the next one. We've got School of the Blind, Amanda.
Hello, committee. I'm Amanda from Legislative Research. I'll be covering several different ones. We're going to start with State School for the Blind. So this campus is located in KCK, and the agency submits a revised estimate of $3.5 million, all from the state institutions building fund and capital improvement expenditures for 25. There is no change between the 25 legislative amount and the agency request for 25. There's the page you see before you, their capital projects are split across 4 categories: safety and security, HVAC, rehab and repair, and other major projects. The big one, if you look at number 3, that's kind of where they put in these special projects. Item 4. Special projects. For fiscal year '25, so last year the legislature approved multiple enhancements, including replacing the floor and removing a stage from the campus gym in the Johnson building. They also approved some funding to safely abate and remove asbestos, and then upgrade some lighting and plumbing in the dormitory. And 26, the agency had submitted 4 enhancement requests for their capital improvements budget. This budget has gone before House K-12 Education, so I'm going to also kind of talk about what they suggested in the committee, just so you're aware. So in 2026, State School for the Blind did ask for an increase to their base rehab amount by 5%. That was not recommended by the House on K-12 Budget Committee. And then they have 3 projects. First, the agency was looking for some additional funding to continue removing the asbestos in the utility tunnels and other places found on campus. The agency was also looking for $470,000 to renovate part of the Johnson building that houses their new inclusive preschool program. So last session, the legislature gave $30,000, or appropriated $300,000, excuse me, to School for the Blind to begin this inclusive preschool program. Now the agency is coming, looking for the $470,000 to renovate part of the building that will house that preschool program. And last, the agency is requesting $270,000 to replace a gas line. They've been doing several projects. They have a breezeway, and a local utility company expressed concern that the gas line is running underneath that breezeway that connects 2 buildings, and so they're looking to move that. Like I mentioned, House K-12 budget has already met and come up with their recommendations, but it's gone before House Appropriations. In those recommendations, they are including funding for the gas line and for the asbestos. They did not recommend funding for the Johnson building for the new preschool program or increasing the base amount for inflation. And with that, I can stand for any questions for School for the Blind.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions, School of Blind? Representative Osley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Amanda. Do you recall what I was supposed to report back to Representative Sutton on these? He'd asked something about the ongoing tunnel renovation and repair. Okay.
I could add, Chair, John Martello. He's the head guy that works for all the facilities for Schools for the Blind and School for the Deaf. He is one person. He does the projects for both facilities, and I believe he's online as well. If anyone had any questions.
I'm fine. I may follow up with him later and make sure I give the proper report back to the proper representative. Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the difference between what the agency requested in rehab repair and what the legislative budget committee is recommending represents the increase that they were asking for in rehab and repair. At the 5%. In the agency request was 922,000.
Yes, ma'am.
That is the 5%. And then the other question had to do with the inclusive preschool. So what expenditures have already been made, and would those expenditures, could they be used if the legislature doesn't follow up with the additional funding?
Certainly, Chair, to provide a brief recap. So last session, $300,000 state general fund was set aside for this program for startup costs. The agency believes that this early inclusive preschool program should fund itself because they're going to be charging fees for sighted individuals that are using the program as well. And so typical preschool, they think it'll fund itself. There was no money given last session to renovate this part of the Johnson Wing that's going to be housing this program. I think prior it had been used, they had a Head Start program there briefly, but it's not currently being used for that. And so what the agency is coming forth with, they came in November, December when they presented their 5-year plan, and then looking for now is $470,000 to kind of renovate and prepare for that. No funds have been spent, as to my knowledge. They're looking for those funds.
Further questions? All right, not seeing any. You're still up.
So yes, Chair and Committee, I guess I'll move on to School for the Deaf. Very similar layout, what you're gonna see here. I will refer back, so on your sheet, I believe item 3 where it says rehab and repair. Last session, the agency's revised estimate is gonna include enhancements that were approved last session, the Roberts elevator, the older Roth East elevator, and to replace some exterior windows. This next year, going into fiscal year '26, they are looking for $70,000 to install the gas service line that goes to the Taylor building. They're also looking for $350,000 to replace a roof over the Taylor building. It's a gym, Taylor Gym, I should say. And then they're also looking for $90,000 to continue safely abating asbestos from the steam pipe. And the $200,000 SIBF as well, sorry, for the utility service tunnels. That one's beneath a parking lot, so they need to repave the parking lot as they've replaced that tunnel. And in, sorry. House K-12 budget, they did come forth with their recommendations. They did approve, or recommend, sorry, the tunnels, the $90,000 for the hazmat abatement, the $70,000 for the new gas line, and the $350,000 for the roof on the gym. And with that, I can stand for questions on School for the Deaf.
Questions, committee? Okay. I'm kind of questioning there's 2 items on here that stand out to me, the other major projects, the $90,000 for abating asbestos, and then $70,000 on gas service line. To me, that sounds like safety issues, but yet it appears that it's all been not included per LBC. Is that a correct statement?
It wasn't included as a part of the global motion in LBC to get rid of all supplementals and enhancements. But since that time point, House K-12 Budget Committee has met and put that funding back.
That's what I wanted to hear. Okay, thank you. Further questions? Okay, moving right along then.
And Chair, I think I'm still in the hot seat. I think Department for Children and Families is next.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you are. Not going to let you off that easy.
My apologies, Brianna. May I have an extra sheet? Yes, all right. So next we're looking at the capital budget for Department for Children and Families. For this agency, we're only talking about the Topeka Service Center located at 5th and Van Buren. This building serves as the DCF Service Center for the East Region. The agency leases this building from Department of Administration. Over the past few years, they've replaced a boiler to the building and have remodeled their first floor. In November, December, I hope many of you will recall Brent Witten came in, who's their chief facilities person, came in, presented their 5-year plan. And as you can see before you, their projected plans include work for the roof and the parking garage. In the current year, they're requesting $200,000 in expenditures to replace the roof. Next year, later in 2026, they plan to resurface the parking garage. And with that, I can stand for any questions on those.
That one looks pretty simple. Looks like LBC pretty much approved everything they were asking, at least from our papers. So further questions, committee? All right, not seeing any. You're off the hot seat. And we have Kansas Office of Veteran Affairs, Molly. There you are back there.
Members of the committee, my name is Molly Pratt. I'm a fiscal analyst with the Legislative Research Department, and I will be presenting the capital improvements for the Kansas Office of Veteran Services. The executive director is in the building, but I believe he's in a caucus meeting for veterans right now, so he may or may not be able to make it. For fiscal year 2025, the agency submits a revised estimate of $21.9 million. Including $615,000 SGF and $19.8 million SIBF. The SGF was previously appropriated for the Veteran Cemetery Program, and the revised estimate includes the following capital improvements. Item 1 concerns the Kansas Soldiers Home located on Fort Dodge. The revised estimate includes $2.1 million for 8 projects, in addition to $200,000 for emergency repairs and maintenance. Some of those 8 projects include replacing the roof on, I believe it's the Alzheimer's unit, which is Halsey Hall, redoing an entire shower room at the Halsey Hall also, upgrading the air conditioning and heating units, and purchasing generators. Item 2 concerns the Kansas Veterans Home capital projects. The Veterans Home is located in Winfield, Kansas. The agency requests $2.3 million for 2 projects, in addition to about $170,000 for repairs and maintenance. The 2 projects would be for upgrading the electrical infrastructure and remodeling the dementia wing of Bleckley Hall. Item 3 concerns the new Northeast Kansas Veterans Home. The 2023 legislature appropriated $17.2 million in SIBF funds to construct a new veterans home located in Topeka. In fiscal year 2024, the agency expended approximately $3.4 million on schematic designs and architectural renderings. The revised estimate in fiscal year 2025 includes $13.7 million in expenditures. The agency is still waiting on receiving the matching 65% in federal funds from the federal government. The agency has moved up in the priority grouping for the federal government. Last year they were in priority group 8. They are now number, I believe, 78 of 81 projects in priority group 1 for the federal VA. And so the SIBF funds will likely be carried over until the federal government distributes the 65% in remaining funds. Item 4 concerns state veterans cemeteries capital improvements. The request includes $2.1 million, including about $615,000 SGF for 8 projects. The main project is the expansion of casket and in-ground cremation gardens at the Winfield Cemetery. You'll note that that's $1.3 million. That is in the form of a federal grant that the agency has received. Other projects on the cemeteries include committal shelters at Fort Riley, or installation of restrooms at the shelter on Fort Riley, constructing a road through the Fort Dodge Cemetery so that visitors can easily access every part of the cemetery, and more committal doors at various cemeteries, primarily to keep out the wind during services. And item 5 relates to network modernization completion projects. Does the committee have any questions for fiscal year 2025?
Committee questions? Not seeing any. Go ahead, Representative Ostley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This one's not been through appropriations yet, correct?
No, it has not.
Okay, then, the shower room remodel at Halsey Hall, what are we doing there?
I believe, my understanding is that it is to make it more accessible for veterans. When I toured the facility, my recollection is that a lot of the features in that shower room are pretty old, and they want to make it just more accessible for veterans who have disabilities and things of that nature.
Okay, and then if I may, Mr. Chair, the makeup air unit at Halsey Hall and the HVAC upgrade, is that all SGF or were there ARPA funds available?
Mr. Chairman, I believe those are related to, I believe those are SIBF monies. I can get back to you, though, once I have a chance to look at my laptop and everything.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And looking overall, it looks like LBC is pretty much agreed with what the agency asked for both years. Is that, so I think we're getting everything.
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Molly.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to proceed with fiscal year 2026?
Yes.
For fiscal year 2026, the agency requests $2.8 million in capital improvements, including about $201,000 SGF for veteran cemetery projects. Item 1 concerns the Soldiers Home. The request includes about $800,000 for 2 projects, in addition to $212,000 for emergency repairs and maintenance. Those 2 projects are to upgrade the IT infrastructure and to expand the pharmacy located within Halsey Hall. The current pharmacy is very, very tiny, and I believe only, per the agency, 2 people can barely fit comfortably in there, so they would just knock out a wall next to it. That's being used for, I believe, just like a break room right now. Item 2 concerns the Veterans Home. The request includes $1.8 million for 7 projects, in addition to $177,000 for emergency repairs and maintenance. Projects include repairing the steam line, remodeling one of the buildings, and replacing doors and things of that nature. And finally, item 3 concerns the veteran cemeteries. The request includes $437,000 for 2 projects, in addition to about $30,000 in emergency repairs and maintenance. Those 2 projects are to install restrooms at the Waukegan Veteran Cemetery and to install memorial walks at all veteran cemeteries for families. And with that, I will be happy to answer questions for fiscal year 2026.
Mr. Clues, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just looking at the 495 number, IT infrastructure, Soldiers Home. Where's that reflected up front? Or is it in?
Bottom of page 12.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, item 5. That is reflected, I believe, in the SGF column on agency fiscal year 2025 on the prior page. I believe those funds were appropriated in a previous fiscal year, and that is, the agency is just trying to complete the project at this point.
So follow up, so that 201 then on 2026 is the completion of it. Am I reading that correct? 201,980 SGF or?
Mr. Chairman, the 201,000 SGF in fiscal year 2026 would be for other projects, not the network modernization. The agency plans to complete that this fiscal year, if it hasn't already been completed.
I think part of the confusion is the bottom of page 12, it's listed under 2026 capital improvements, but we're referring to it over under 25, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, I might be confused. The $53,000 for network modernization and security, that is included in fiscal year 2025.
Right. He's under number one,
Oh.
under 2025, it's $495,295.
My apologies.
Okay.
I was getting very confused.
Gotcha.
Yes, that would, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, would you repeat the question now that I'm on the same page?
Okay, so we were just asking where that was reflected on page 11.
Yes, that would be under the SIBF funds, I believe, under the SIBF funds.
So it's included in that.
Yes, the 2.6 million.
Okay.
And again, I can double check that with the agency and once I get back to my laptop.
That project has not been started at all. Correct. Okay, okay.
That clear, makes a lot clearer, so, okay, any further questions? Not seeing any, thank you. So, I think we've ran through all of these now. While we've got the quorum, I'd like to go back and let's start making the recommendations if we could. I'm gonna back up to last week, we heard State Fair and we heard Department of Parks, or Wildlife and Parks, we'll hit on them first. State Fair, I'd like to make a motion to follow HB 2007 for both 2025 and 26. We have a second from Mr. Clues. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. For Department of Wildlife and Parks, and stop me if I get this wrong, but I'd like to follow HB 2007 under 2025 only. Do I have a second? Okay, seconded by Senator Francisco. And any discussion? Not seeing any, all in favor, please, Senator Francisco, go ahead.
So 2025 is the part that limits the amount of dam maintenance?
I was thinking that was under 26, but do we need clarification?
So if we could just have an understanding that that is a reduction in the funds that would be available but have not yet been expended in this fiscal year for dam maintenance?
We have Secretary, go ahead. We just want to make sure we get this right, so.
So yes, those are reappropriated funds from '24. And we originally had $2.4 million. We've already spent $800,000 of those funds in preparation to repair those dams. And so we're slotted to move forward if you all allow us to.
So to move forward, you would need the appropriation of $2,940,000. How much would you need to move forward? That's
1.9 million,
1.9.
correct.
Any further discussion on this? Okay. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You made a motion.
Yep. And I would like to
Have a substitute motion?
have a, well, we don't even
Or
have to.
we
You
just-
seconded it, so we can change it.
Okay.
As long as you go along with it as a second.
Okay, I would second the motion if it includes $1,900,000 for dam maintenance in fiscal year 2025.
And I agree with that. So, Further discussion? Mr. Clues?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a statement. Thanks for following up with the information on the dams.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion? Okay, Senator Francisco, thank you for helping us out on that one. I wanted to make sure we got it correct. Okay, not seeing any further discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to let you make the motion for 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee concur with the requests from the agency for fiscal year 2026.
And I second that. Committee, discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we are on to what we went through today.
Thank you.
Just pages out here. There we go. Department of Labor. I'd make the motion to follow HB 2007 for both 2025 and 26. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Clues. Discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Kansas School for the Blind. Make a motion to follow HB 2007 for both 25 and 26 fiscal years. Seconded by Mr. Clues. Discussion. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have been concerned that the committee does pay attention to increasing costs for rehabilitation and repair. We have asked some of the agencies to include that in their budget. These funds are mostly from the state institutional building funds, and we are in the Senate, I know, talking about changing how those are financed, but we are including a increase over the years. So I would prefer to see the 5% increase for rehabilitation and repair in the 2026 budget. And my other concern would be, I know that the legislature has had a lot of discussions about childcare and how we help that. So it seems to me one of the most appropriate ways to do that would be provide some of our facilities and make those available. So that would be my concern with the motion that's been made on this.
So concerning 2026, do you wish to break them apart and make a substitute motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make a substitute motion that on fiscal year 2026, in addition to the recommendations from House Bill 2007, that the committee recommend the 5% increase in rehabilitation and repair funding.
Do I have a second on the substitute? I will second it. Okay. Committee, further discussion. Senator Clues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the 5% is increase from the SIBF or the SGF, which I missed that, sorry.
It would come from the SIBF. I think all the financing that we're seeing in their budget is from State Institution Building Fund.
Further question? Okay, not seeing any. You've heard the substitute motion. So all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Substitute motion carries. Thank you, Senator. We are to the Kansas School of the Deaf. And it looks like I was going to make the motion to follow HB 2007 for 2025 only. Do I have a second? Okay, seconded by Senator Francisco. Discussion on 2025. Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion for 2025 carries. Kansas School for the Deaf, I would like to follow HB 2007 plus adding in the funds for asbestos abatement and the necessary gas line. Do I have a second? Seconded by Senator, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would second that if we also look at the increase of rehabilitation and repair funding. The additional, I believe it is also 5% that was requested.
Discussion on that? Go ahead, Representative Osley.
The Committee on K-12 Budget did discuss this and did not recommend it to the House Appropriations Committee, and it was also not in the governor's recommendation for the School of the Blind nor the School of the Deaf, and I just for the committee's information.
Good information. Does that change your thoughts? Go ahead.
Was that, or you're just talking about the increase in rehab and repair? You're not talking about the gas line?
Correct.
Further discussion? Go ahead, Senator.
I would move the motion. Substitute motion.
Yeah, as presented.
As presented with,
That'd be the second then before you move it, right? Okay, all right. Seconded by Senator Francisco. Further discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. That was School of the Deaf. Now we are at the Kansas Department of Children and Families. And make a motion to recommend House Bill 2007 for both fiscal year 25 and 26. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Clues. Discussion committee. Okay. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That was for Department of Children and Families. For the Office of Veteran Affairs, I didn't see anything standing out to me there, so would recommend that we follow House Bill 2007 for both fiscal years 25 and 26. Seconded by Mr. Clues. Senator Francisco, go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if the committee might want to just simply add a note that we understand that the funds for the Veterans Home would be reappropriated to be available as a match for federal funds when those are available.
Okay. Duly noted. I'll give them a chance to catch up. They're typing as fast as they can. So, okay. Further discussions on the motion for Office of Veteran Services? All right, not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. That gets down the whole list there. I believe, Brianna, if you'd like to maybe say a few words, but I think this is the last of them. So we have completed it then. That's what I wanted to hear. So committee, I sure appreciate you all getting together on the noon hours like this. I had talked with, oh goodness, I think it was Kansas Highway Patrol was wanting to know if they could come in and maybe give a presentation of what they're wanting to do with the training centers and future moves and that. So I'll keep you opposed as far as when. I'd like to hear what they've got to say, so we're not going to be necessarily approving or recommending anything, but I think it'd be good information to have. So I'll talk with them further and get something set up. So, any other announcements or comments? Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.